Hello everybody, my name is Vic Gilgras. This is another podcast. It's episode 40 and it's called Looking for Better. And it's to do with, hopefully, to help you with your well-being, and I do this also to help me with mine. So I'll make a start. I was going to call this Looking for a Different or Better Boss, because the podcast is about, as I say, looking for better. I'm talking about we all hope to have a better life and maybe hopefully think of ways in which that can be achieved. And as the key word there is think of ways for it to be achieved, because this is the boss. And maybe if we had a different boss, not saying that we don't need that, but it shouldn't be the boss, because our thinking, because it comes through what I call a psychological basis, often we are very reactive to things because we feel insecure about things, because we're all a bit like that. We can get depressed. We can feel that we should be doing more. And when we are coming from a mindset like that, and we don't always come from that mindset, but that can often be the case, that when we're thinking about making life better for ourselves, then that is the wrong place to start. So it's like the old joke, isn't it? How would you get from, say, Bridlington from here? Then, the saying, well, I wouldn't start from here. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that I wouldn't start from using my intellect, although the intellect is very useful. It should be the servant of wisdom. And when I talk about wisdom, I'm talking about a type of thinking that comes to us, not from this, and both are needed. But I would say that I'm talking here about two types of thinking. One is the psychological thinking, and the other is the thinking that comes, I will use the word here, spiritual, as against psychological. What I mean by spiritual is that it comes from a formless dimension. And in trying to explain that to myself and to you, I would say it comes from life. So when we go out into nature, and we get quiet to our thoughts because we're in nature, and that is like more spiritual, as it were, then knowings come to us, awareness comes to us, which is a different type of awareness. So we suddenly get a feeling that this is the way to go instead of that. And that's what I'm referring to here, is that we are kind of sometimes working from the wrong system of thinking when we're trying to make life better for ourselves, because the system of thinking that we commonly, because we all, this is us, relate to, is our thinking mode. And and as I've said right at the beginning, our thinking mode can often constrain us because it's built that way. So I'm hoping that we can kind of break out of that box. I'm going to do this by use of a metaphor, a factory metaphor. When I say a factory, I'm referring to a place that makes things, and that could be washing machines, it could be aircraft, it could be motor cars, it could be mince pies. So a factory makes things, and the reason I'm raising this as a metaphor is that if we work in the factory, so we may be on a production line helping making mince pies or what have you for Christmas, then we just get on with it, and that's the way it is because that's our job. But if you stand back from that and said, well, like we would like to improve our life, like taking the factory example, I'd like to improve this factory in the way in which it works, then you would say, well, oh, crikey, yeah, so instead of just, like in life, we not often, but we can be saying, oh, it's the same old, and there's nothing I can do about it. I just don't think about it. I have to get on with it because that's my circumstances. What I'm saying is that if we're taking the factory example, we don't have to put up with the way things are, because we can use a different mindset to say, what could we do to improve matters here? And once you take that, or get that insight that it is possible to improve things, it's the same as the insight that we have with our lives. That it's a different way of thinking. And I am talking about sight from within. So I'm talking about using life's thinking instead of psychological thinking. Not that the two aren't needed, they work together. But let's go back to the factory example. If we're thinking, right, now then, so this is a shift in consciousness, a raising of consciousness, which I want you to do, hopefully with your and myself in our personal lives. A shift in consciousness, a shift in awareness to say we could be doing things better. So in the case of the factory, we could be saying, say with the management looking at the factory, well, we could improve productivity in different ways. We could improve the culture. We could make the working practices for the people better. In other words, improving the work-life balance better. We could pay them better. We could make their working conditions better. We could improve the quality of the product. We could give the customer a better service. We could lower the prices of the product. We could introduce new technology to make the product. So there is lots of different ways in which we can now, having raised our consciousness and said there's ways of improving things, like with our life, going out of the metaphor, there are ways of improving our life. That when I say raising consciousness, it means a higher level way of, wrong words to use, but like all of a sudden getting the idea that this can be done, whereas we probably normally don't do that because we look at our circumstances, our situation and our constraints in life and think, well, there isn't much I can do about it. I'm stuck with it. And what I said right at the beginning, this is a constraint of the thinking mind. Once we kind of see through that, then it becomes possible to see the myriad of possibilities. And once that is seen, then life has a way of helping you meet these challenges and overcome any obstacles, because it can see through it better than your psychological way of looking at things can. So I hope that kind of starts off the conversation here with having a shift or a raising of a consciousness level, of raising of our awareness on this. Now, going back to the factory example, it may be that we need to not just look at it from the production function. What have the marketing people got to say? What have the personnel people got to say? What have the sales people got to say? In fact, and the managers wouldn't like this, but maybe we need to say, well, we need a change of management before we can see more clearly what needs to be done. And that is akin to me saying in our personal case, we need to not be, kind of, what's the word? Not obsessed, but kind of addicted to obeying this particular boss, which is our psychological boss, and freeing ourselves up to more possibilities that can be given by looking at things from a spiritual, or what I call a life's knowing dimension, because life is intelligent, it wants to thrive, it works through you, and so it will always give you hints and tips and knowings of what to do if you are listening, instead of listening too much and being addicted to listening to the boss. So that's what I would say from the the factory metaphor of raising our level of consciousness, now coming to our self the reality of hoping to improve our lives, a change for the better, then we, like the factory example, kind of get a change in awareness that we can look at possibilities now, and that there is a way through all this kind of, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it, because there is something that can be done. And let's get back to brass tacks. In the personal situation, what might we want for a better life? Now, I can think of, what people might say. What I would say to myself in the past is, I'd like more money, I'd like a better house, I'd like better relationships, more friends, my job to be better. I'd like people to like me better. I'd like to be fitter. I'd like to be more handsome. Well, I don't have to worry about that, do I, anyway? Sorry about that. But no, those are all the things that go through, the types of things that can go through our minds. And they're what I would call material things. Fair enough. We're human. We're human beings. But if we look at that, the secret there is that we are, as well as being human with all our frailties and our desires and needs and kind of constraints and reactions to things, because we may be coming from or feel that we're coming from lack, so we get anxiety caused by, we're here and we should be there. And that's what I mean by, the psychological thing does constrain us. If we were coming from what I would say a more formless way of thinking, instead of materialistic, or a more spiritual way of thinking, or what I would call a life way of thinking, is that if we looked at maybe our life being better because we are happier, more at peace with ourselves, have more contentment, feeling easy, having the confidence that life has got our back. Now, what I'm saying there is that material things are achieved more effectively when we come from that dimension of okayness. Because when we're okay, our mind is less constrained by our psychological kind of lack of and what have you, and basically our psychological or our mind can only come up with ideas that we have learnt. So it's very difficult to think out of the box. But what enables us to think out of the box is when we move out of the box by coming into this formless dimension, this spiritual dimension, this dimension of life's energy, which has got intelligence. It has. Life's energy, spiritual energy, which is within us, comes through us, has got intelligence. And when we go quiet to our psychological thinking, because I've said there's two types of thinking, a psychological thinking and a life's energy, or a kind of a spiritual or natural kind of reaction, or kind of knowing, because of the energy of life within us, which knows what to do for us. It takes us out of the way of danger immediately, and will always kind of put opportunities in front of us, because it knows, it sees the bigger picture. So that's the point I'm trying to make. First point is that there's two types of thinking. Make use of the one that we don't normally use, which is life's way of thinking, using life's energy and intelligence. So we're raising our awareness to be able to look across the piece, as it were, in our life to say, what do we think? So we're kind of reflecting here, not worrying, reflecting on what in our life could be there to make our life better, more content, more peaceful. And when we're coming from that dimension, more than, well, that there is the leverage to give us what we want in what I would call the material dimension. That's where the power lies. And so it's akin to being reflective and as I say, the raising our level of consciousnness to say, like in the factory example, oh, there's this, that, and that, and that, and that, things that we can do to make the factory better. There is the same with us, is that there's this, that, and that can be done to make our lives better. And when we reflect on this, and when we go quiet to our psychology here, then what happens, and it does happen, it's happened for me and it's happened for other people, is that you get a knowing of what to do. Now that might be immediately, it might take a day, it might take a week, it might take months, but it does come because it's there. And because you've asked for help, you've asked for this, it will be given. It always is. And I think that the nice thing is that when you have faith that this is the case, that this will happen, that makes it even easier because you can now relax knowing that things are being looked after. Instead of intellect's way or the psychological way of having to run around like a headless chicken trying to fix things in the outside world to make our lives better, because that doesn't work, because we can fix things, but then life changes, and then the goalposts change and all the rest of it. What I'm saying here is that when we raise our level of consciousness to say that there is more things that can be than we can think of that can come to us, then that opens up, well, it opens up our mind psychologically anyway, because we're kind of putting that a bit on the back burner. And as I will say, psychologically, once we start looking for possibilities of things to do, then also our psychology starts looking at it as well. But what is the key is that we get to know from that second system, which is a system of life's intelligence. It starts to point out ways to us because it knows the angles, it knows the bigger picture, and that intelligence basically comes to us, and then we can start using our normal intellect and psychology to get on with doing the details of things, but that comes second. So I think, I hope that kind of has been of help, that shift to a better way of being helped. So I'll just finish off by a little bit of relaxing here. Relaxing in the sense that we now know it's been handled differently, in a better way, well, in the best way. And that is comforting. It gives us confidence. We can kind of sit back, not just waiting, but knowing that things are being catered for. And in the meantime, getting on with our life as best as we can. I mean, sometimes no news is good news. Just knowing that things, if nothing is happening, then that's meant to be. Carry on, carrying on breathing. Carry on relaxing. Not taking life so seriously, because it's just our psychology that takes things far too seriously, and taking our thoughts about life, which are often coming from lack, coming from anxiety, not enoughness, but we are innately okay. And when we start to realise that what we've got within us that can solve things, the inner strength that we've got, that's always there. And that's nice to know. It's nice to know. It's nice to know that we live in a thought-created reality, so don't take this too seriously. The reality is what is always there, what is now. And what is now is our awareness. It's always been with us. It's been with us from birth. It's awareness. It knows what to do. It's our life energy running through us. If there's anything that needs to be done, we will get to know. So we can relax. And the way I always relax is right from the top of my head, just relaxing, my forehead, any wrinkles just smoothing out, going down to our body. Soft ears, soft cheeks, soft eyes, neck, relaxing. No burden on the shoulders as we go down, that's right. Our upper arms just relaxing, our forearms easing down, soft on the chest as we go down, easy on our belly and our buttocks, sat easily, comfortably, being supported as we go down through our body, relaxing down through our thighs, relaxing down to our calves, so easy, that's right. Soft ankles, right down to the tips of our toes, so relaxed. Having gone right down through our body, everything okay. That's just lovely. That's so nice. Just thanking life, acknowledging your body, acknowledging that your mind is trying to help you, it's doing its best, but knowing that life's energy and intelligence is always there with us, 24/7, it knows what to do, it's got our back. Thank you. So if we come back into the room, thank you for listening, thank you for watching. I hope that's been helpful. So take care. Hope to see you again.